Devin lit the fireplace, and I sat in front of the warm glow as he brought our bags in and left them in the bedroom. I could hear Devin grunt as he threw the last of our bags on the bed. The cabin was gorgeous. 12-foot ceilings, and most of the cabin was covered in windows. Huge windows that looked out into the landscape and mountains, though currently nothing could be seen but the snow falling to the ground and complete darkness past that. Devin walked around the corner of the room and smiled as he looked at me. He was holding an old Super Nintendo.
Hey, are you okay?
Yeah, just a little cold. Did you really bring that? Devin smirked and walked to the TV in front of me and hooked up the Super Nintendo and powered it all on. He then came and squeezed next to me in the chair, pressing himself against me and holding me tight with one arm, the game controller in his other.
Hey, look, I'm sorry I didn't trust you with that SUV. I don't know. I didn't expect it to go that crazy.
Honestly, it's okay. In some sense, I think I was just trying to egg you on. I don't know why I'd try and take you down a peg when you were so trusting in people. Even if I'm not that way, I'm glad you can be that way. I rested my head on his chest, and I just sat there watching and listening to him play Metroid, in my wedding dress, in front of a beautiful burning fire, as my new husband comforted me. I was happy, and I don't intend to forget that moment. The music from the game slowly dulled me to sleep. I remember being woken up by Devin as he shifted in the chair. Not long had passed, maybe 30 minutes. Devin saw that he woke me.
I'm sorry, my leg was asleep.
It's okay. Maybe we should shower and get some sleep so we can head out early tomorrow and explore? Devin nodded in agreement, but then smirked.
You know, we did just get married today.
He gave me a wink. Oh, does that leave you entitled to something? I turned to him and laughed.
We both are. I don't make the rules, Chelsea.
Smooth. So blame it on tradition?
Yeah, I mean, if there was any other way.
He let the sentence hang in the air as he laughed. I really want you to know how much I dislike you right now. He leaned in and kissed me and replied with a simple,
I know.
I got up and headed to the shower as he sat there on the chair. I looked back at him and motioned for him to follow. He gleamed like a child on Christmas morning. Later, we were back in the room. I was laying on the bed. Devin was in a robe, putting some of our clothes in the closet and moving the suitcases off the bed and out of the way. When he was done, he turned on his heels and grabbed the sash holding his robe together and slowly began to tug at it, letting the knot he had tied slip out. As he did this, he began to dance to comedic effect. Devin, no. I tried not to laugh, to not encourage him, but he kept the gig going anyway.
You know it's rude to interrupt a dancer.
He stopped, grabbed his phone, and put on some music that did not fit in the slightest and continued to take off his robe slowly, dancing around the room. It didn't seem like he was stopping anytime soon, so I got up to shut off his phone, and as I climbed out of bed, I could hear what sounded like snow being crushed under the tires of a car outside, maybe even the engine of a car. And for a brief moment, I could have sworn I saw lights flash across the room. I ran to Devin's phone and I shut off the music. He began to laugh and come at me, still being playful as he tried to speak, but I stopped him, holding my fingers to my lips to hush him. Did you just hear that, Dev?
Hear what?
He looked at me confused. I don't know. I thought I saw a light. Maybe I heard a car? I second-guessed myself as I said it. Maybe I had imagined it. Maybe it was the song? But I was sure I saw a light. You didn't just see that light go across the room? I spoke with even less confidence.
No, maybe it was lightning. Maybe it's raining now.
I walked to the big window in the room. No, it's still snowing. I was scared as I approached that window. I didn't want that to show, though, because the more I thought about it, the more I felt I was imagining things. Clearly, I was still on edge from the SUV driver earlier. I hated this window the moment I saw it. There were no blinds or curtains that covered it whatsoever. Granted, I am sure the view would be stunning in the morning, but the window took up the whole damn wall. And it just made me feel uneasy. I couldn't see out more than a few inches. But even at that, I had to really try. Not to mention all the inside lights were reflecting off of the window, so it was almost impossible to see anything outside at all. I shut off the dim lamp in the bedroom and went back to the window to see if I could see any better. I could see nothing suspicious, but even if there was something there, it was all black anyway, so there was no way I could have seen anything. Devin turned the light back on and pulled my robe down below my shoulders and began to rub them as he nuzzled into my neck. I leaned into him as he kissed the nape of my neck.
Chels, you're still really stressed. I highly doubt something's out there. It probably was just some wildlife, but it's okay. Let's climb into bed.
He picked me up and threw me on the bed. Now, I don't need or plan to go into details with our intimacy, but I want to explain some things because some things happened during that should have been red flags that unfortunately we never took too seriously, even if in the end it somehow came that this night would in some shitty way be my saving grace. The first red flag came as we were having sex. I had positioned myself to see out the window. I wanted to be able to see out just in case. I felt a bit more at ease being able to see, but I couldn't really enjoy myself because I was being vigilant. Staring out that window and slowly coming to terms that maybe nothing was out there, I dropped my guard. I had been letting the idea that someone was stalking us hold us back. The idea that they could see in this house and watch us have sex was too prominent. But truly, we were in the middle of nowhere. We were off the main road. The chances were slim, and I should have been using that fear to drive our passion, and so I let it. At some point, I had come up to breathe and rearrange myself, and that's when red flag number 2 came. Out the window, there was a green light. I saw it as I glanced up, but the minute I tried to focus on it, there was a loud crash, and the green light I thought I had seen was now gone. I stopped moving, and clearly Devin was not okay with that because he didn't let me stand still long. As he spun me onto my back, I lost sight of my vision out the window. I tried to address it, but as he moved on top of me now and took charge, some part of me let go, and I embraced the moment and I let the idea of whatever I thought I saw outside leave my mind. Later, we were laying next to each other. My eyes were back on that damn window, and it was all I could think about. That damn green light I thought I had seen, and what was the crash? Clearly Devin had heard it. He was just distracted by the intimacy. Hey, did you hear that crash earlier?
Yeah, I did. It's probably just snow falling off the roof. It happens, especially if it started raining.
I was still sure it wasn't raining, but it was a good explanation. The only issue I had was that green light, and I was almost positive I saw it. I debated asking Devin if he saw it, but I knew he hadn't, and he wasn't acting the least bit worried about any of this. I rolled over to look at the clock on the nightstand. Green numbers illuminated around it. It was 11:43. Wait. I looked to the window, and if I looked just right, I could see the glow of the green numbers in the window. Is that what I saw? Were the numbers reflecting in the window actually the green light I had seen? Maybe you're right. I just can't shake the idea that someone was and is following us.
I'm sure a lot of that comes with the loss of comfort being somewhere new. I'm sorry.
Devin looked to the big window.
If you want, we could go sleep in another room or see if we could cover the window somehow.
He could tell I was looking out the window into the creepy vast abyss of nothingness. No, it's okay. I know it's nothing. I'm just letting the idea of the creepy cabin in the woods get to me. Too many horror movies running through my mind. It's funny how one asshole with road rage can really just get in your mind in a dark place, you know? I'm only giving in to what that dipshit wanted. Devin grabbed me and pulled me close, letting me rest my head on his chest. He ran his hand through my hair.
I'd rather it not be a horror movie. Plus, if it was, we just had sex, which means you're the first to die.
I sat up and hit him in the chest. Shut the hell up. Also, that's so unfair. Why is it always the dumb blonde who has sex that has to be murdered? That's shitty.
So, you're calling yourself a dumb blonde?
He chuckled, proud of himself. No, you're dumb. I'm talking about the girl who has sex for the first time in a horror movie. You know what? You took that out of context. And if we follow horror tropes, and I'm the first to go because we had sex, that probably would make you the surprise killer at the end.
That's not a horror trope. That's just Billy Loomis and Scream. But if it's what I have to do to stay alive...
He let the sentence hang in the air, and then he laughed it off. Yeah, I still hate you. I laid my head back down on his chest and closed my eyes. I could feel Devin breathing, his warm breath on my ear, and then he whispered softly as I felt the fatigue of the day really start to set in.
I would never let anything happen to you. I promise.
Normally I would wake throughout the night, but for the first time in a long time I slept straight through until Devin woke me. He was sitting by me, shaking me awake. As I struggled to open my eyes, Devin kissed my forehead.
Look.
He pointed behind me to a large window. Even though I still had sleep in my eyes, it was breathtaking. The ground was covered in white, sparkling snow. the pine trees towered all around. The land we were on dropped into a huge gorge, and then mountains followed immediately after, cascading up and into each other. The sun was rising above the mountains ahead and making the snow bright and vivid. I sat up and just stared in wonder. We lived in the mountains, but this was different. There were less trees, and where snow couldn't lay, you could see the mountain was literally just rock. Where back home, it would be covered in greenery. The greens, blues, and the whites, they bled together to paint the perfect picture ahead of us. Wow. It's beautiful.
Right?
Devin sounded excited and he stood up.
I figured we could go out and take a walk, see what's around the place. Maybe this afternoon we could head out on the ski-mobile.
Devin pointed to a small shed without a door to the left of the backyard. A small ski-mobile sat there in plain sight. Yeah, that sounds good to me. Let me get dressed and maybe get something to eat.
Okay, I actually made you an omelet. There's some fresh fruit in the fridge, too.
I smiled and got up. Before long, we found ourselves leaving out the front door. Something to understand about the layout of this house is the bedroom set in the back corner, so the window we saw last night looked out over the backyard. To my right, out of the front door, was the driveway. I could see Devin's old truck parked and covered in snow. So from where we were, we couldn't see anything in the backyard. The front yard was a bit different from the back. The backyard, as I mentioned, opened into a gorge, clearly sitting on a ridgeline of the mountain. In the front yard, the mountain continued to climb upwards. The snow was a little deeper than my ankles, but the sun was warm on our backs. On this side of the house, there were a lot more trees, and amongst the trees was a small opening to a trail that climbed up the rest of the mountain. Devin pointed towards the trail and looked at me, open to suggestion. I put on a pair of earmuffs and nodded my head, and we began to walk the steep uphill to the top of the mountain. Even though the sun was warm, the cold air stung my lungs as we climbed. I'm sure it wasn't as warm as it felt when the sun was on us. I could see my breath, and when a tree blocked out the sun, I could immediately feel how cold it truly was. Before long, we made it to the top of the mountain, and we could see everything. It had to be one of the highest peaks around, and we could see on all sides. We could see other cabins scattered throughout the distance, with chimneys putting off white smoke into the air. I could see cars driving down winding roads all throughout the mountains, a large river that ran through the base of all the mountains, and in the very far distance I could make out a huge ski resort and what looked to be a small town near it. Due to the winding roads and the distance from us, it looked to maybe be half an hour out. The birds were chirping in the morning air, and there was a calm still that came with it all as a light breeze passed over us. It looked like a Thomas Kincaid painting. It was unreal. We stood there for about 10 minutes just taking it all in, never talking. I forgot how cold it was as we stood under some trees that blocked out the sun. It was distracting in the best way possible, but before long I found myself shaking from the cold. Devin put his arms around me and asked if we should head back, to which I agreed. As we walked back down, we made plans to take the ski-mobile out and have lunch in the small town, to look around, and then ask about a place to go out with the ski-mobile. We weren't sure if it was open to do anywhere, or if there were specific areas to do so we figured that was the best way to take in the small town, get lunch, and then head out again when the day was a bit warmer. We spent a little time inside warming up. I played a little Metroid on the Super Nintendo and wondered how Devin even knew what he was doing in that game. And then we headed back outside to load up the ski-mobile. Luckily, it sat on a trailer and Devin had a hitch. We got in the truck and he backed the truck to meet the trailer. When he was close enough to do it, he climbed out to do so. I was sitting in the cab, and from there, just ahead of us, I could see the large bedroom window in the backyard. I had never taken the time to look at the actual yard, though. I was too busy looking out into the mountains. It had snowed a lot throughout the night, but right under the window of our room, I could see the snow was pressed in, and it didn't look like it was from fallen snow from the roof. There were too many indentions. The truck jumped as Devin slammed the trailer down on the hitch. I opened my car door and got out, walking towards our bedroom window to take a closer look at the indentions. Devin? I muttered quietly. I know he didn't hear me. As I walked to the window, keeping my eyes on the indentions, I noticed that they came away from the window, back, behind me. They spread out and became less frequent. Almost like...
Hey, Chels, what are you doing?
I looked back to see Devin, standing behind the truck looking up at me. I looked to the ground following the indentions. They stopped a few feet behind Devin's truck. And there where they ended, 2 parallel lines began and went up to the road. I placed my foot in one of the indentions in the snow. Footprints. These were clearly human footprints that led to our window, back out to a vehicle that had driven off. 2 sets, probably one person, walking from their vehicle to the window and then back. At the window there seemed to be a lot of movement though, because there were many indentions and then a huge body-sized one. The loud crash. Someone had been watching us. I had started to put it together. The noise I thought I heard when Devin was dancing, the lights. It was a vehicle of some sort. Could have it been the black SUV? Of course, we never saw a vehicle pull up because it was on the other side of the building behind Devin's truck. And in the time that we got into bed, whoever was out there snuck up to the window on foot. We were too into the moment, and it was too dark outside to see whoever was out there. And at whatever moment I heard that crash, the person either got spooked and dropped down quickly, or they truly slipped and fell. I wasn't okay. I felt my heart sink into my gut. It caused my stomach to turn, and I had to fight the urge to throw up. I unknowingly fell to my knees and felt the warm tears on my cheeks. I felt violated and alone. Someone had clearly watched us have sex last night, and they knew where we were. I couldn't move or even think outside of that frame of thought. I had forgotten where I was, and all I could think in that moment was that some sick fuck had been watching us last night. He was right there, right outside our fucking window, and we had no idea. Some sick asshole enjoying himself to my husband and I. All I could think about was that black SUV. Why would anyone else have followed us or known where we were aside from our family? I was shaking, furious, hurt. My emotions were just swirling around. Devin came up behind me and picked me up off my knees and spun me around. He was shocked to see my tear-filled eyes.
Chelsea, what's wrong?
I didn't have to answer. He put it together much quicker than I probably did as he looked behind me, and I saw his eyes follow the trail out behind his truck. I sank into his arms as he pieced it all together. I wished I could just fade away. I felt for a moment Devin would try and justify this. Say someone in the family came to check on us and realized we were okay. He'd make some bullshit excuse to make me feel better about this shitty situation, but he didn't. I felt Devin begin to shake in anger as he squeezed me tight.
God damn it, that son of a bitch!
I don't visually remember very much after that. I think I was too far gone to give a damn what was going on around us. Devin took us to the small town and we found a police station. Devin asked to file a report and asked if something could be done, but of course, without any sound evidence, they couldn't really do much. They said they had never heard about anything like this happening here, so they literally had nothing to go on. They even stated the fact that it could have been someone turning around or someone checking on us. I was in a daze of pain and confusion and wanted to yell at the officer. I know this was one time Devin actually believed someone followed us up there with bad intentions, but he didn't fight the officer like I hoped he would. But I guess I can't blame Devin. The officer was trying to be as helpful as possible. The officer actually seemed a bit scared, almost like he was hiding something or had never dealt with an issue like this before. That is one thing I distinctly remember. He offered for someone to follow us back and look over the grounds and maybe even send a patrol out a few times throughout the following nights. He even gave us his personal cell number if we ever felt we needed to call him. We took the number and said we'd appreciate if someone stopped by, but we refused the ride back to the cabin because we wanted to get out and not focus on this stalker. We thought maybe we could even check out a local hotel so we wouldn't have to stay in that cabin. But for that moment right then and there, Devin wanted to get lunch and try and have some fun. He didn't want this asshole to ruin our time, and even though I was still on edge, I completely agreed with that sentiment. Looking back on it all now, I wish I would have kept that phone number the officer gave us. I wish I would have talked and been more involved in that conversation with the officer. I was in too much of a daze and I never said a word. Devin took the phone number and left it in the truck. Maybe if I could have been more involved and spoke more about what I felt happened last night, or if I had just put that phone number in my pocket, maybe it would have helped things to not become so drawn out and painful. Unfortunately, that's not at all how things went.